Hey, we're back here, back with me, Chase here with Chaselyn Fitness, and I cannot tell you how excited I am about this video training because prepping and planning and putting a plan together and mapping stuff out gives me all the joy on the inside. So if you're here with me today, thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Chase with Chaselyn Fitness, and we are going to be talking about ways that we can prep and meal plan your way into your week to be able to hit your macro numbers. Now, I've done a couple other trainings that was kind of led up into this one, but in this video, we're going to be covering basically how to lay out your entire week and how to implement food, a prep day, a planning day, and to be able to hit your macros and your numbers on an easier scale throughout the week. Now, I'm also going to cover like 3 different levels of how you can do this and what would look different in each level. And the reason for that is because we have different level of states that we might kind of interchangeably go through. As an example, if I am super regimented, I've got a big goal coming up, if I am looking forward to, a vacation or something, and I'm wanting to look a certain way and feel a certain presence when I attend that event, then I'm probably going to spend more time in a level 3 or a more advanced version of this. And then sometimes if like right now I'm coming off being, or having a baby and living in this postpartum weird space, I'm still breastfeeding. And so right now I'm kind of living in this, like, I know what my numbers look like. I'm loosely tracking, but I'm also having a little bit of freedom and concerns to what I want to eat, how I want to eat, and when. Or if also another level, if you're like, hey, there is no way I am taking care of, 10 people in my house. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but maybe you're more so looking to do, 2 to 3 meals throughout the week to then take a little bit of stress off your plate throughout the week. That would be an option too. So let's dive in. I've mentioned on a couple other videos where a great place to start in concerns to planning out your week would be starting with your protein intake, and then from there diving into each little meal, taking your protein intake and then planning that into your meals, and then filling in with, snacks and veggies and maybe even supplementing. Supplementing is going to be your last resort. It is something that I know I do at like a 2 o'clock, 3 p.m. Time frame where I'm like hungry, but I'm not really looking for a meal because we're about to eat in a couple hours. So that's also after I've eaten, 3 to 4 servings of protein throughout the day. So I'm not going to recommend to anybody, hey, throw in a protein shake early on in your tracking journey, is because I would really challenge you first to get in majority of your protein intake from whole foods, as well as trying to get in your carbs and your fats as well from whole sources before you jump into adding a supplement into your regimen. Okay, so a little nugget in there for you. Now, what we're going to do is, again, prepping and planning is going to be the key into making sure that you're going to see success. Now, this video, I've got 3 different compartments that we're going to visit in, level 1, level 2, level 3, in concerns to advancing your effort level. And again, there is going to be a lot of mental space. So if you are brand new to tracking, I highly don't recommend jumping into level 3 until you're quite ready for that. Okay, so don't be like, oh, Chase said I have to do it this way. No. Remember, it's about little bit of progressing every single week. So get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And then as you progress, then you can start to challenge yourself on, hey, am I doing this? What am I doing this for? Is it a space for me to be able to loosely track, or am I looking to really track? And so that's what's great about macros is as you start to have awareness and start to learn about what you're doing, you're then able to, connect the mind to the body and to what you're currently doing, and know like, oh, I haven't really had any protein today. Like, I'm probably not going to hit my protein intake. And so you start to have awareness around that as well. So let's dive in. Again, let's start your week off with finding 2 proteins to work with. Yes, 2 proteins. Now this is what's great about this is having a whole bunch of shredded chicken or chicken breast in the refrigerator. You can always throw that into a skillet and add some seasoning, and now you've got a Greek flavored chicken, or you've got taco flavored chicken, or like not a lemongrass, that's in lemon, anyways, a lemon flavored chicken. What is that? There's like a seasoning. Okay, moving on. So you've got a couple of options there. So again, with you just kind of creating a really good batch of chicken, you're able then to throw it into your stuff throughout the week to make it nice and yummy. So start with 2 proteins, and then pick 2 to 3 veggies that you're gonna work with as well. This could be like fresh veggies. I know we buy a broccoli, big old broccoli bag that I can just steam really quick. We can roast it. Same with Brussels sprouts and things along those lines. I highly recommend going fresh or going frozen before going to cans. Cans are gonna be a little bit more processed. Sometimes they say there's nothing in them, but they are stored in a way. Sometimes they're stored with a lot more sodium than needed. And so just be cautious when you're looking at things that are already pre-packaged. There can be added additives into it as well. So just be on the safe side. Now, again, then take your 2 to 3 veggies and know that that's what you're gonna add with your proteins, and then pick your carbs as well. So the things that are gonna take the most time is going to be your protein, how you prep your protein, how you cook your protein, as well as your starches, or not your starches, your carbs or starch, yeah. So if you're gonna do rice, or if you're going to do a sweet potato or golden potatoes, whatever you decide, or however quinoa, whatever you want to pick in order to add to your plates, again, those might take some extra prep time to cook and to prepare. So again, just depends on how you want to kind of process your week and how much time you have in order to prep and plan for your week. Now, in this email, or I'm also have a resource for you that has it's a PDF layout, and it basically is a layout of your whole week. It starts all 7 days, and then it splits your days up into your meals, and then it also gives you like a little a tracker for your shopping list, and kind of puts your week together so you can start to see what your days are gonna look like and what you need to either make ahead of time or what you're gonna make the day of, and kind of just put your whole week together. Again, if you're gonna pick 2 proteins, like for example, we do either, lean ground taco meat with like pork. So Jared will make that. You guys know my husband cooks all our food at our house, especially the meat. So he will have the protein cooked and prepped on a Sunday, and then I'm able to kind of put and prepare my meals out of that. And I'll throw my protein in with, again, having 2 different sources of protein throughout the day. So I can have a breakfast with my eggs, I'll have lunch with the pork, and then I'll have a taco salad with potentially some tortilla chips, or throw in some of the, some veggies and some cheese and some salsa. Super good. So then I've got like taco seasoning, ground beef, as well. So again, just starting with 2 proteins, then start to plug and play how you're going to put them in throughout the week. Now, level 1. This is where you're, again, back into maybe a beginner stage of tracking your macros. And I would recommend starting with 2 to 3 meals that you're going to prep and create on one day. Okay, now this 2 to 3 meals might look like, hey, you're following a recipe, or and then you're going to portion it out into a couple of servings, or maybe you're taking those 2 to 3 meals and you're going to have some frozen in the refrigerator for a couple days later. So again, this is where you're, again, only going to prep and prepare a couple of meals at a time, and then that way you're good and done. Okay, now this is basically you're creating leftovers. That's all. That makes sure that you're not running through the drive-through. You're like, hey, I've got such and such in the refrigerator when I get home. There's no need for me to order pizza. There's no need for me to go run through Chick-fil-A drive-through because you already prepped and prepared that food a few days before. So that's going to be level 1. That couple of things, pros and cons to this space is if you are creating recipes that have a lot of ingredients, it can be overwhelming. It can be time consuming. It can have a lot more prep in place than your week might allow. And it also can be kind of like hit or miss with your macros. So just because the recipe says, oh, you get this many, or just say you imported the recipe into MyFitnessPal, which it allows that. So you're importing it in there. Well, just because it says the protein is blah, 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 you technically, I mean, if you just think, if you made a soup and you take a scoop of that soup, tortilla soup, right? It's got chicken in it. And you take a scoop. That one scoop might have 2 little shredded chickens in it. Shredded chicken in it. And then you might take another scoop and it might have like 10 pieces of the shredded chicken. So technically you don't really know what you're consuming in that recipe. And so that's why I would say this is going to be more of your level 1 type of tracking, where you're like, hey, I made it, I prepped it, I know what I'm eating, which is great because now you're planning ahead, but it also might mean that you're not technically tracking all the way perfection. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. If you're brand new to this, I highly recommend starting here. And then as you get used to what you're doing, then we start to make edits. All right, level 2. This is where you're going to be mixing the meals. This is kind of the space I'm personally living in right now. But you're mixing meals and recipes in with tracking and knowing exactly what your numbers are, where you actually measure your stuff out and you have a plan and you know what you're doing. So for us in my house, this looks like where Jared would prep all of the pork for the, 4 or 5 days. And then I know I've got, pork in the refrigerator and I can mix that in with some steamed veggies and some rice, but I'm not planning and prepping it all ahead of time. Okay, so not meaning where I've got, every single meal in my refrigerator with the beautiful compartments. There are times and spaces for that, which is going to be a level 3 conversation. But level 2 is really you're just kind of mixing things up with planning and knowing what you're consuming, prepping a few things, having them on hand, and then plugging those into your app as you go. So it's kind of a mixture of things. This is also a great space to work in if you are going to be traveling and or you're on vacation and you guys know, okay, well, on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be eating out. But then you can plan for your meals at the cabin or whatever you're doing. This is a great middle of the road wiggle room for both sides when it comes to prepping and planning. All right, level 3, my favorite. I love because I get excited about prepping and planning. Right now, this isn't for a space for where we are at in my household, but there has been times, again, when you're really looking to make some physique changes and you're looking to see your body composition change. This space will be crucial in seeing that success, okay? So a couple of things that happens in this one. One, we're gonna stick to pretty regimen routine. This is where you would consume for like 3 or 4 days, you're consuming the same foods, and then you would re-prep and replan for another 3 to 4 days. This is great for, you're going to be weighing all your food. You're going to be tracking all your food ahead of time. You're going to already have prepped and planned foods in your refrigerator to where you grab, create, and make. And you're going to be able to have an actual layout of your week and know exactly what you're eating for every single meal. Okay. How you do this? Again, you're going to use a little chart to know exactly what you're eating. But it really is just weighing out your food, measuring your food, and then putting a plan together. This is to where you're going to take those numbers put together like one full day, right? See how much you need to consume of each. Maybe it's, again, it's hit or miss. It really just depends on what kind of food you like. But again, sticking to the whole foods, sticking to like barely any processed foods, and you're making homemade dressings. You've got everything is going to be fresh. And then you put it all in your containers and be able to prep and plan in this regard. So this will be a great space. Again, this is going to be a level 3. This is for when my clients get to a point where they're like, hey, I'm ready to really like make some changes. I want to put on some weight, or putting on some physique changes, or start to going through like a major cut. This is where you have to get super specific on what you're doing, how you're planning, and tracking everything in the app. Okay, this is not your loosey-goosey, like, oh, maybe that was 4 ounces, maybe that was 3 ounces. No, this is like you're weighing your food, you're tracking your food, and you're putting it in a container, and then you know exactly what you're gonna eat all week. Okay, so this would be a more advanced version of planning. So again, keeping it simple. So you start with proteins, you add your veggies, and then you add your carbs through each meal. And then that way you can see exactly what you're eating, how much you're consuming, and you're able to track your foods as well. Another thing is making sure you're tracking all your oils, all your seasonings, all of your sprays, right? So just because you're spraying the pan and it says 0 calories, that's actually not true, because it says 1/4 of a second. Like, how do you 1/2 of a 1/4 of a second spray? So again, think about those things as you're prepping and planning and preparing. If you have questions, I would love to hear from you. Again, if you want that resource, feel free to send me a message asking for that. Or if you're in the challenge, the 4-week macro challenge, have that resource for you in this email as well. So again, looking forward to hearing from you guys. Don't forget to share your prepping and your pictures and your experiences with the group. Add that into our Facebook Fit community. We want to see you, we want to celebrate you, and we want to share with others where we're at. So looking forward to seeing your stuff.